Hey there, ghoul friends. I'm Piper,
And I'm Matt.
and this is Two Ghouls, One Podcast, where we like to discuss all things current, classic, and obscure.
And today we're going to be talking about all five fucking Phantasm movies.
Oh boy, are we. Alright, so just to give a little rundown in case you haven't seen them, because I know they're a bit older. Um, so some newer fans maybe haven't ventured into some of the older films. It's about a teenage boy and his friends who face off against a mysterious grave robber known only as the Tall Man, who employs a lethal arsenal of unearthly weapons.
So I had seen these numerous times, and you had only seen the first one before, right?
Yeah, I had only seen the first one time, so I had to view 4 new movies for this podcast.
And I, of course, rewatched all five of them. What
Which was how many full runs have you done of those?
full runs? I think five, because I watched it quite a few times when five wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
So four back, probably 20 some.
Jeez, would you say this is your favorite franchise?
I think it might be, yeah. I
Okay.
can't think of one I like more.
Certainly not one you've seen more.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And I still might not be able to accurately tell you what happens.
Well, I think that's fair given the storyline of these movies. Like it definitely I gave you the simple explanation of them. It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yes, there's a lot to cover. So, Phantasm 1, what did you think?
All right. Just want to let everyone know this is going to be a spoiler heavy episode, but the first one came out in 78, 79. So I mean, we're in spoiled territory when a movie's 50 years old, okay? Like, what do you want from us? Um, the first one, not to give too much away too early, but I don't think the first one's the best one. Uh,
Okay.
it's fine. It just was not something that super piqued my interest. I honestly didn't plan on giving the other ones a watch because the first one was just kind of meh to me. So it just I don't know, it didn't pique my interest enough for me to want to further pursue the franchise. But I'm glad that we did this episode because it does get better further in my opinion.
I
I don't know
agree.
if you yeah, I was like, I don't know if you share that opinion
It
because you're the
it
you're
gets
the big
nuts.
fan, so I feel like I'm gonna get roasted for my opinions, if not from you, then other fans of the franchise.
We might both get roasted since we're saying one is not the best.
Oh, do you think it's widely
It
thought that
has
one
like
is the
that, yeah, it's got that Italian sensibility to its filmmaking that people
Mhm.
just latch on to.
Yeah.
And it has like the whole metaphor thing going for it where some people take it at face value, which I do. I take this whole series at face value. There is a malevolent force that has possessed a man who is now a multi-dimensional being. But some people look at the first one and they're like, okay, Mike is having a psychic break from losing his parents and then his childhood friend and then his brother. And the tall man is just the mortician who represents death, and he's taken the bodies of all of his loved ones away.
Hmm.
But I think that's bullshit. I think the tall man is here to create an army of the undead and
Yeah.
put them into spheres.
Um, I would have to, I guess, take it at face value as well because I feel like later on in the film, I mean, he's not even in the second one, So it's how is it Mike's all taking place in his own mind if he's not even present for the second one? And
Yeah,
then
that whole thing kind of falls apart in the sequels. But
yeah. I mean, it's a good theory for the first one, so I can
mhm.
see why people would have come up with the theory, but it's not one that holds up throughout the franchise.
Yeah, for sure. The first one does do one of my favorite things in a horror movie, which
Mm-hmm.
is Mike encounters the tall man and like gets that finger that turns into the bug.
Yeah.
We should probably back up in a minute and give you some explanation. But he takes his brother that bug finger that is
Mm-hmm.
now a bug, and it's clearly not like an earthly bug. There's something supernatural to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody sees it, and instead of like explaining it away or like, I'm not a fucking insectologist, that could be a bug, he's just like, all right, I'm getting the guns. Like,
I mean, I might. It's sometimes I just see a regular bug and want to grab a shotgun. You know what I mean? Like, if it's in my house and it's big enough, I'm like, we gotta get a weapon for this thing.
fair. That is
Yeah,
very fair.
it's my
Um,
my favorite Tim Burton movie, Edward Bugfinger. So
Edward Bugfinger.
well, you said he had a bug finger. Let my jokes
Yeah,
land,
it's
man. Like,
that that joke flew like a bug.
yeah, it had wings.
Um, do you want to try and explain this? I'd love to see your attempt.
Um, just explain the first one.
Yeah, just
Okay,
we can alternate.
wouldn't you know, I did not take notes on the first or second one. I'm just was like, my memory will do fine. I've seen this one twice, but then I watched four more after that. So why did I think it would stick? Um, stick bug. We just gonna do bug
God
jokes
damn
this
it.
whole time?
You are apparently.
um,
I'm just gonna sit over here and cringe.
so it does follow Mike, who I don't know why I even care. I always want to like gear the kid's age to give you some definitive because it's like a kid is like 17 and younger. So what the fuck is this kid's age? I would say like maybe like preteen or like very early teens.
I was thinking like 12, maybe
Yeah.
11.
Ugliest fucking kid I've ever seen. I
God
hated
damn.
looking at him through this whole movie. And that might be mean to say about a kid, but he's also very old now, so I don't think it matters. I don't think I'm bullying a child. Um, I'm bullying a grown man about how he looked as a child. That's different. Uh, it's just something weird about him. I'm like, does this kid smoke like a pack a day? It was the 70s, so maybe. Looks sickly. Anyways, so I was forced to look at Mike through too much of this movie, but it
God
follows
damn.
like him. He's the main character, at least in the first one, and his brother Jody and their friend Reggie. Reggie's an ice cream man. Jody is perhaps a bum. I don't think we get to know what Jody does. uh, my
He's got a
favorite scene,
Himikuda somehow.
huh?
He's got a Himikuda somehow. A
Is that a car?
71, yeah, 71 Barracuda with a Hemi engine.
Don't talk to me about cars. I don't know car stuff. Anyways, uh, this isn't a car podcast.
It, it's
Um,
a, it's like the other character of Phantasm though. That car is.
that's fair because I guess that's the type of car that the dudes like Reggie's always talking about. It was black. It was a black car. That's my that's my description. My favorite scene in this movie is that like Jody's getting down in a graveyard. I think it was him and some girl in a graveyard, and he has her
That's where
underwear.
Tommy, the friend, died.
Oh
Tommy's having sex with a girl in the graveyard, and the girl shapeshifts into the tall man
no,
and kills him.
I think you're skipping ahead maybe because what I'm thinking of is it's Jody. And I think Mike had like just seen the tall man, so he goes like running and screaming away from the tall man. And Jody's like, "Hold on, that's my brother." But he has the girl's underwear in his mouth, and he doesn't give them back to her. He breaks out into like a full sprint, underwear between his teeth, And I don't think he ever went back. I don't think he gave the woman her underwear back. She had to like just walk home.
Well, she was the tall
Like,
man. She's fine.
was she the whole time?
Yeah, she turns into the tall man and kills Tommy at like the cold open.
But Mike was
That's what
seeing the
brought.
tall man at the same time that Jody was getting it on, or well, he had not yet. He was only in the panties in the teeth stage. Um, but well, not to spoil anything, but there is more than one tall man. These fucking movies, man. Like,
We're spoiling stuff. We're
uh,
spoiling stuff.
yeah. So I mean, unless there was like one, like more than one of the tall mans, would it plural be tall men, or is it still just tall mans?
It's tall man's.
Okay, yeah, because I thought so too. It's like,
Like it's
because
Spider Man's.
is it?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, unless there was like more than one tall man's there at a time during the first one, uh, but he ran off with them undies. Wait. That means the tall man shapeshifted into a woman
Mm-hmm.
and then had women's
Mm-hmm.
clothing. Like, where does that come from? Does he just like, you think he's got like a wardrobe somewhere that,
I think he can materialize it.
yeah?
Yeah, I think so. That would be my guess that he can warp the dimensional reality around himself to either be in a suit or be in a dress.
Okay, well, also, and this is super spoilery for the later on ones, I can't help it. Uh, that the tall man is like, I guess you get these flashbacks where it's like he's just some regular dude at first from like the 1800s. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
Jebediah Morningside.
yeah, so if he was just some regular dude from like the 1800s, the panties in Jodie's mouth were very modern, which means the tall man keeps up with modern underwear
Of
trends.
of all the things in this franchise to get hung up on, why is it panties?
And look, this is only the first of things I will probably get hung up on, okay? I wasn't hung up on it until we started talking about it, and then I registered how nonsensical it was. I
So
thought that the woman wasn't even the tall man, so I'm only
I,
just now hung up on it.
I know the woman that got Tommy is. I'm pretty sure the woman Jody went out with was also. But you got me questioning it now. But
Yeah, because
the
couldn't
fact
the
Mike
tall
showed up saved Jody's life.
because couldn't the tall man probably have just seen that woman with Jody or something and then been like, that's who I'm gonna shapeshift into next or something, you know?
But he was already that at when he got Tommy.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't that because Mike and oh my god, we're never gonna get past
So
this because he could not have been in two places at once. I don't think,
he's a
unless there was.
multi-dimensional entity.
Well, yeah, but it never states specifically that he can be in two places at once, right?
In the first one or in the franchise? It certainly
I
does. Well,
I guess in the franchise, like I know they divulged that there's more than one of him, which it could be the
yeah.
case that there was more than one, but it never says like one tall man can be on my side of the podcast and your side of the podcast at the same time.
Well, you're in another dimension, so he certainly can.
Okay,
You're
fair enough.
over
You know
there
what? We're
and
gonna move past the panties.
thank you. Good Lord.
Look, that's on you, man. Like I was just
How are you putting this on me?
anybody listening, let us know in the comment section whose fault this panty issue is. It's Matt's, right?
It's
We can
pretty clear
agree.
who's hung up on the panties here.
Who here has the panty
Um,
issue? It's Matt. So, uh, Mike discovers the tall man first, and I don't know. From there, it's a bit odd. Like Jody maybe does, maybe doesn't die in a car wreck. And then I don't know. Essentially, like by the end of it, you've just got Mike and Reggie sitting romantically by a fire. It was a little erotic to be like, I
he's
don't
like
know.
12.
I'm saying the
Good.
lighting and the mood of it was a little weirdly erotic or erotic. I'm just like, you know what? And that's
I,
that's the first one.
can I mute people? uh, okay, so kind of that's the first one. If you haven't seen Phantasm after that, I would strongly recommend you just go watch it for yourself.
Would love to
Okay,
know your take on the panty situation.
I, can I give it a shot?
Sure.
Okay, people are starting to die around town, and the mortician seems to be kind of shady. And Mike starts investigating him and finds out that he might be the leading cause of death in this town now. And it turns out that the tall man, the mortician, is taking the corpses of the townsfolk and making his minions from. Uh, so you get spheres, you get these silver spheres. They're his first weapon. They're called sentinels, and they fly through the air, and they get these things that come out of them that latch into your head, and then they
Like little
drill and suck
spikes.
all your blood out like a mosquito, if you want to compare it to a bug.
I'm gonna give your review a 2 out of 10 because you didn't even mention the panties.
I'm not done yet.
Oh well, you've already skipped past that part, so
And he's also making these little dwarf like creatures that just kind of run around and make funny noises. But they are kind of menacing. And then, so Mike investigates all this. He ends up cutting the tall man's finger off, and that's when it turns into a bug that he gives to Jody. And so Jody, Reggie, and Mike all go to the mausoleum to battle the tall man, and they find these two weird metal poles coming up, and they're making a weird hum. And if you go through the poles, you enter another dimension, which is like this red planet where you see all the dwarves. And then basically they find Reggie finds that he can destabilize. He can put his hands on the things and destabilize the reverberation and kind of shut down that portal to the tall man's world. So the tall man, as the woman who has the fucking panties, kills Reggie. Right, Reggie's laying there dying, and then the house, the not house, the mortuary mausoleum
yep.
starts to implode basically. And then the next thing you know, Reggie and Mike are sitting on the erotically lit rug, and Reggie's telling Mike that Jody died in a car wreck. And so Mike is going to bed, and then the tall man bursts through a window and pulls Mike out of it. And that's the end of the first one.
Now let me ask you:
Okay.
when the woman
If you
is like
say
with
anything about panties, I'm
when
leaving.
the woman is with Reggie, as you said,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
is do we see the panties? Is it confirmed that she has those same panties?
I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I hate you.
So you cannot confirm.
I cannot confirm the status of the panties.
Okay, so then you could have left that out of your review, and I would just like to ask the people listening, who do you think gave the better review? Me, who mentioned the panties, or Matt, who did not actually mention the panties? You just let us know.
So the theory is it's a Mandela effect created from Mike going into another dimension. So that's why Jody was alive in his original dimension, but now he's in another dimension where Jody died in a car wreck and Reggie is alive.
Okay, so would you say it's safe to move on to the second one?
We can move on to the second one.
There will be no mention of panties anymore. I'm sorry to the
Thank
audience.
God.
We're like 20 minutes in to the
We are,
recording.
and we've gotten nowhere.
The panty debacle was confusing to me. Well, anyways, the second one, oddly enough, which I think, Matt, had you said there was a 9 year time difference between the release of the
Roughly,
first one versus the second one?
it's roughly.
Yeah.
It was what 78, and then like I guess I got a nifty little Google box right here.
It was enough time had passed to where the actor playing Reggie looked noticeably older to me, so I asked Matt, and he's kind of the phantasm whiz, unless it comes to panty questions, and then he doesn't know anything. Um,
9 years, 79 into 88.
okay. That's the same year the Little Mermaid came out. Just a fun
What are the
fact, I guess.
status on fish panties? I guess is the question you want me to ask.
They don't need panties.
Oh, good.
Only shell bras.
So, Phantasm 2, we pick up exactly where Phantasm 1 left off with Mike being abducted by, well, I guess not exactly. The tall man is kind of less of a factor, pulling him through a window, and it's now more dwarves dragging him down a hallway. And Reggie just goes into panic mode and decides to blow the house up to kill the dwarves and the tall man, and he gets Mike out.
He huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down.
Yep. Only he used like gas and fire.
Yeah.
But
I guess you should specify that in this movie because a lot of weird shit takes place. So it's like, no, he didn't.
then there's like a 10-year gap roughly in the movie as well as in life.
Mm-hmm.
And Reggie has a family now. He has a wife and a daughter. And he goes and gets Mike out of the mental institution because Mike is the only one that remembers not only the alternate reality, but the way his house blew up. Reggie doesn't remember blowing the house up. And so everybody thinks Mike is crazy. So Reggie picks him up, and Mike has a vision that Reggie's house is going to blow up. And he's also been telepathically communicating with someone else named Liz. And so they get to Reggie's house, and Reggie's house blows up, as Mike predicted, with Reggie's family inside. And Mike kind of triggers a memory in Reggie about the night that Mike's house blew up. And so they start kind of in Sam Raimi Evil Dead fashion, like making weapons, Like Mike makes a flamethrower and Reggie makes a quad barreled shotgun. And they go to hunt the tall man and they find Liz along the way. And that's kind of all that happens in two. Two's my least favorite.
Um, I think I liked two a little more than I liked one. With that being said, though, it's just I didn't like one that much. Uh, I do agree that you get like a deadite situation almost with like the I don't know, like the people that kind of come back. They feel very deadite in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Two, it had Liz and that psychic link with her and Mike that kind of says that they're special. And it also has that priest who gives the tall man some great quotes, um,
yeah,
kind of anti religious quotes, but they're hilarious with Angus Scrimm's delivery. And then they had the twins that were like the mortician helper people
hmm,
that get sphered, sentineled.
yeah,
I guess for people who haven't watched it, we should continue calling them the same thing. So I'm just going to call them the spheres.
yeah.
Is that I can't remember if at some point in one or some point in two is when they reveal that he's shrinking down the corpses.
That'd be three.
It's in three.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, two doesn't have very much to me. It kind of gets more actiony. They got rid of A. Michael Baldwin as Michael and cast I forget his fucking name. It's the only thing I've ever seen him in, but he's more of a hunky guy. If you notice, Piper's not complaining about his stupid face right now. It's because they got a hunky guy, um, kind of like a more chiseled jaw, action hero-y type
that kid
guy.
looked sickly. I don't know. It it was just hard to look at him.
You Piper, glass houses and stones. Okay. Um, so the second one is has a good bit of action, but it doesn't have that much horror, in my opinion, until you get to like the ass end of it when they like hit the tall man with the acid and he like
Yeah,
kind of melts away. There's also a weird, like, they hit him in the head and then a little antenna mouth comes out and is like trying to bite him,
yeah,
which I don't know what that signifies, but that's there. And so they hit him with the acid and he melts away. And they're like, "Yeah, we did it." And then another tall man just comes out of because every mortuary that he's in has those tuning forks. And so another tall man comes out of those tuning forks and just grabs the corpse and throws it into the other dimension. And now they have a new tall man that they got to fight. And then they have a car chase because it's an action movie.
and if you're wondering if there's ever any explanation as to the little bug thing that there's not. There's no explanation on
Never.
yeah, a lot of these are just yeah. Uh yeah, there is more explanation, I would say, in especially the third one. I think the third is really heavy with like explaining a lot of stuff, which I appreciate. But there's still a lot of stuff that you don't get answers for too. So it's just
Oh,
one of those
yeah.
franchises where you just appreciate it for what it is because it doesn't divulge all of the information to you. This would be a great I don't know if it's the case or not, but I feel like this they need like comics to maybe explain some more things. Like that would be cool.
I haven't looked into them because I didn't realize that was like a viable source for like continued information until we talked about the Hellraiser ones the other day.
Yeah.
I need to look into that and see if there's some sort of expansion. The
For
second one
sure.
also ends with so Mike and Liz. Oh, alchemy! We forgot about fucking alchemy. They pick up Mike's girl Liz, and then Reggie picks up a girl alchemy,
Okay.
and Kimmy for short. He's like, "Stay here, like I'll protect you." Blah blah blah. So Kimmy is like the damsel in distress type that Reggie was just like, I'm gonna go be the hero. You wait here, and she's actually who picks them up when they're destroying the mausoleum at the end. And so they drive off in the hearse, and it's Liz and Michael in the back, and Kimmy and Reggie in the front. And she's like kind of giving him F me eyes, and starts twirling her hair, and then part of her head comes off.
That was a cool scene.
Yeah, and then that's when Reggie's like, "Oh fuck, I've been with a deadite this whole time."
Yeah.
Not an actual deadite, but basically,
Very Deadite
Cos-
like.
Coscarelli and Raimi are like best friends. Like in the first one, if you notice, there's one of the embalming bags is labeled Raimi.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there's like little Easter eggs to each other in some of their movies.
Um,
But
I almost wonder if like the same person worked on the special effects for both, or
I'm not sure actually.
because they do like if you watch the second one and you're familiar with like the original trilogy of the Evil Dead, then
Hmm.
you'll see the comparisons are very uncanny to one another.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, it's like, damn, I wonder if they did. So yeah, Kimmy like is revealed to be evil. Reggie gets out of the car, and then we see it from Liz and Mike's perspective in the back. He like falls over in the road bleeding, and the car starts to take off while Kimmy's cackling. And then the tall man pulls Mike out of the window of the moving hearse. I love it.
Yeah.
He,
Um, I would say like the later bit of that movie is better than like the majority of it, but I think like the latter half does save it because it's pretty cool. Like I guess it's just the Deadite type characters and stuff that I really like.
yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
there's all this like yellowy, oozy stuff,
Hmm.
and I don't know. It's like where normally there would be maybe like a blood situation, you get the yellowy, nasty stuff, and I thought like that's pretty cool. I wonder if there was like maybe trying to work around censors because like sometimes they'll do that to avoid like a harsher rating or something where they'll
Right.
like so I don't know if that was it or if it was to just represent that they're not human, they're like from another world.
I know the tall man always has like yellow blood, and I'm wondering if maybe he like uses his blood to bring people back,
Yeah.
and then they have yellow blood.
And he's not from like this world, so that was kind of my thought is like is it meant to was it more of a censoring situation or was it like an intentional like hey they don't even bleed red man like
Right. Yeah, I would assume being friends with Raimi, who like did Evil Dead, which was like one of the NC-17 movies,
mm-hmm.
he wouldn't really care. It's probably more to show that it is an otherworldly thing, but I've never watched like I should watch the special features and shit because I like these things so much that
You
some of those
should, yeah.
things.
He's got the 5 DVD collection, so
Yeah, I don't even know if it actually has special features on it, but if it
I will
does, I need to
say
watch them.
I did just look it up, and they did not have the same people doing special effects for Phantasm 2 and Evil Dead, so maybe he just took a lot of inspiration from his friend Sam Raimi.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have a similar style in their gore anyway, not in their
Yeah.
storytelling at all. Two, I think, is I'm lukewarm as far as Phantasm goes. I don't think there's a bad Phantasm, but two's the one where it's like, okay, I guess we got to get through this one because Jodie's
Yeah.
not in it at all. Michael Michael Baldwin isn't in it at all. It switches to what's his name, and like Mike is still the main character with Reggie as like a supporting, but then Phantasm 3 changes everything.
Phew.
The fuck was that?
Oh, I sneezed.
That wasn't a real sneeze.
That was a sneeze.
Nobody actually says achoo when they sneeze.
It was more like two.
You're unbelievable. Um,
Thank you.
no, not a compliment. Uh, 3. You already started talking about it. The one with Tim.
My bad. I watched 5 of them in like a 3-day span. They did bleed together a little bit, okay?
No,
So,
that's cool. I couldn't remember which one they showed the dwarf making process. So
yeah, I'm almost certain. I mean, it would have to be 3 or 4, and I can't say
I
definitively
know it's
which
not
one.
4.
Well, then it is 3. There we go. Um, I'll say right off the bat, 3 is my favorite. Um,
I might agree.
yeah, because with 1, I just like I wasn't feeling it because it's like, okay, well, you've got the tall man who by himself he could have been a really good villain and stuff. Like you didn't need the spheres, you didn't need the little dwarves. I guess that's what we'd call the dwarves.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah.
That's what
Um,
they're called through the entire franchise. So
yeah. Um, so like the first one was just kind of like, well, why are they including all of these things? And they don't divulge that it's like it becomes basically more sci-fi throughout the series, and you don't really understand that in the first one. So I think that's why I didn't care for it that much, because I was like, why did they include these things? um but in the third one you get so much more information. uh you find out how the spheres are made, you find out how the dwarfs are made. uh the spheres are essentially the brains of his victims. Like he basically shrinks down their brains, puts them in these spheres that are, you could hold them in the size of your hand, maybe like the size of a baseball, would you say? Maybe a teeny bit bigger.
yeah, somewhere between baseball and softball size, I'd say.
Yeah. So he shrinks them down and puts the brains in the spheres, and then if I understood correctly, the rest of the body is shrunk down and made into the dwarves. Um, and they
Basically, he wants the dwarves. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off,
that's
but
fine.
uh, he wants the dwarves because the red planet I mentioned earlier, it is. I looked it up. It is 300 times bigger than our sun. So that doesn't make sense cosmically. It should be anything that big should be either a gas giant or some. It doesn't matter. So in this dimension, physics works differently, and it is 300 times the size of our sun. So the gravity is massive. So he needs them compacted. He needs these compact little. They're not that little. They're like 3 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to be able to actually move stuff on this planet. And they get super strong in the process. And yeah, just And then the brain is like a byproduct of that process. Waste not, want not. Put it in a sphere that shoots laser beams or drills into your head or whatever.
Yeah. And they are all like they all do his bidding. So they basically are telepathically, you might say, connected to the tall man and do as he wishes.
Yep. You also meet the Gravers in two, I think you see them for a minute, but they have a bigger part in three. The people that
Hmm.
like exhume the corpses. They just kind of look like they're going to a KMFDM show with a gas mask.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're introduced, and then is there another one? The Gold Sphere is in two, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I don't know if I just didn't clock as to why, but I did have the question of like why is that one like why is there gold ones? Cuz usually they're silver.
Yeah, I really like this would confirm it to me if they did it. Pulled it out of Liz
Mhm.
if he like used her brain to make a gold sphere and it was people that had telepathic abilities,
Oh yeah.
but he didn't want Liz, he just wanted Mike. So potentially it's Mike's, like Mike's from other dimensions.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no real explanation as to why there's a gold one. And then in the fifth one, you see the crimson one.
Yeah, so in the third one, because oopsie daisies, I mentioned the little boy that is included in the third one. I was corrected. I don't know if maybe they just thought like they needed that dynamic again of like Reggie protecting a small kid. Uh, which I guess it kind of is like a nice little thing to see. Something I don't like in these movies, man, and especially in the third one, was like Reggie is such a creep. Like every woman that he comes across in these movies, which is not they don't come across like a horde of women. It's not a constant thing, but there is always a woman in the movies. And boy, he's just ready to like dip it in, you know?
Yeah.
So
Like
like
in one, there wasn't one.
yeah.
And two, it was alchemy. And he did hook up with her, but she was like sent there by the tall man. So it's
Mhm.
like kind of whatever. And the third one, they introduced Rocky, and Rocky has a partner when they show up. That other girl that knows like karate.
Oh yeah, she was badass.
Yeah, but she dies pretty quick. But Rocky lives. I don't remember the other girl's name. They
Did they even
also,
give a name? Because she was kind of almost like fodder, and
yeah,
they just brought her in to be killed off pretty quickly.
yeah, just another body for the tally.
Yeah,
Uh, they also, so backing up, Mike and Reggie are separated.
yeah,
Uh, my Reggie we follow for more of the movie than Mike for once.
yeah. I think this is where Reggie becomes more the main character rather than Mike, and it's probably also why they threw in the dynamic of him with a kid again, so that they could play off that rather than it just being Reggie solo.
Yeah, that's a good theory. I just thought it was gonna like, oh, I have a parody idea for Home Alone, but
Yeah,
yeah, it could be very well could be that he needed to be with a kid again just to show that he's like a protector.
yeah. He's not just a horn dog for women. He also has paternal instincts.
Yeah, that's why he's such a horn dog. He's trying to make one to protect.
I mean, so long as you ignore the scene at the hotel where he's like trying to get the kid to sleep alone in the car at night so he can be alone with the woman. Like
Well, Tim is perfectly capable.
he was, I'll give it that. Like Tim was a sharp shooter. He was very like self sufficient in the like protection category.
Yeah, so Reggie gets kidnapped by three like mafioso wannabe people in this world.
Mm-hmm.
We should also mention that as these movies are going on, the population of the Earth is dwindling.
Yeah.
Like the tall man is going town to town and sending his minions out, and he has pretty much taken America from like the inside going outward.
Yeah, it becomes much more apocalyptic and dystopian throughout at least three and four.
Yeah. So they encounter these three like bad people like in the apocalypse. They kidnap Reggie, they steal his car, they take his weapons, lock him in the trunk of the car, and find Tim's place. And Tim has this place fortified. He's like got traps set up, and it turns into Home Alone for a minute, just an R-rated one. So Tim kills all three of these people on his own, by the way, and then he frees Reggie. And then Reggie explains the situation, and Tim explains his situation, and they go on a road trip together and meet Rocky as these three people that Tim killed. They're resurrected the next day by the Gravers.
So, something I will mention from the third movie, because I wrote it in my notes and I already know you're going to have something to say about it. Uh, while in the hotel, um, they're getting comfy. They're going to go to bed. But Reggie has his fucking shirt tucked into his boxers. I His shirt was tucked into his underwear, man.
I, he tucks. What can I tell you?
I did not like.
Well, maybe he would have a better success rate at the end of the movie if he didn't do that.
Yeah, that's probably why she didn't. Because, like, I don't care how into somebody I am. If I see that their shirt is tucked into their underwear, I'm going to pass on that.
I mean, that's fair. That is a better underwear take than your last one.
Let us know
Um,
if you agree in the comments. Just shoehorning that in there.
uh, yeah, I thought you were gonna bring up when he was like having that sex scene in his head, I guess,
I did
because
also write, why is every sex scene in these movies weird as fuck?
yeah, because it's in Reggie's head more often than not. It's either a dead girl or not real.
Yeah, poor
Um,
Reggie. But
yeah,
but dude's got like a skullet situation going on. So it's like, bald as can be up and up to like the back of his head and then just hair to his shoulders. So and also tucks his shirt into his underwear. Dude's got a lot going against him for someone who wants to get laid so badly.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So Jody's back. He's a black sphere now to show that he's independent, I believe, is the representation of the black. There's actually a theory to that one as opposed to the gold and the crimson.
Are we into the fourth one or does that happen in the third?
No, Jody shows up in the third when Reggie's sleeping in the same bed as Rocky, and he
Mm-hmm.
has like that vision of him like being with her, but then Jody like interrupts, and
Oh,
he's like, "We
yeah.
got to go find Mike."
Yeah, because
And
in the middle of like, I mean, it's not even like like the scene is not actually happening, but I guess Reggie is having like a fantasy of him with that woman. And during the fantasy, he's also like talking to Ghost Jody Or I guess not Ghost Jody, because Jody's brain and stuff is still active and alive. I don't know. I don't know. But Ghost Jody, who is sitting in the cuck chair.
Yeah,
Yeah. Our
that's
podcast will never get
un-
monetized.
it's unfortunately an accurate description of that, but yes,
Yeah.
that's, God damn it, that's
Every
exactly what that
hotel's
is.
got one, man. Just one chair.
So yeah, he's like, we gotta go find Mike, and Reggie's like, I'm a little busy, dude. And he's like, we're in a fucking apocalypse, man. We gotta go find Mike. And so they go find Mike.
Mhm.
And I don't remember too much after. I remember Reggie gets head from the dead girl, the three mobster people.
Would you call that the head?
Is there a crickets button? I need a cricket sound effect.
Someone somewhere is laughing at my jokes, okay?
So it's not me. You did derail my train of thought.
He gets some to head.
Yeah, he gets some to head, and they re-kill the three of them: Tim, Rocky, Mike. No, Reggie. Then they save Mike, who is strapped down on a table with the tall man, because that becomes a thing in the fourth one. Did Mike always have the sphere, or did the tall man give him the sphere in that situation? But the third one is definitely the funniest one. Like, Reggie and Tim have a funny dynamic, as well as like the slapstick with Tim fighting those guys. Like, it's brutal slapstick, but they're slapstick nonetheless.
Yeah, I also God, I didn't quite I don't know. Again, they kind of bleed together a little bit, especially where you're like I watched them essentially back to back almost. Um but I think there's a scene in the third movie where, he's got like Reggie has the quad shotgun uh that he just like duct tapes two shotguns together, but then also still only has the one like butt of the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine because it's like I'm not gonna get hung up on it. It's not a pair of panties. Uh, but there's this scene where he like there's all the dwarves are up in the trees above Reggie, and he shoots one shot, and like so many of those fucking things just fall out of the trees. And it's like I don't think that's how that would have worked. You can't
There's
like
three. There's three that fall out.
they're not it's not like they were standing one behind the other. They're falling from like different areas.
It's the angle of a quad shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I checked. It angles out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who's to say that in the current like dimension or with everything going on that like things aren't a little bit askew and you could
We did fucking fail though.
hmm.
Talking about the start of this movie, because we're on three now.
Yeah.
So back it up to the very start of the movie.
Okay.
The hearse wrecks. Reggie gets up from the ground, right?
Okay.
He goes over to the hearse. Inside the hearse is now Michael A. Baldwin.
Yeah.
They flipped back to the original Mike actor.
They did actually, yeah, because in 2 they have someone else playing him as Matt mentioned, and then in 3 they bring back the actual actor who played him.
And then Liz just dead. Just
Don't even
unceremoniously killed off screen.
don't even worry about her. Never mentioned again. I don't
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
No, a dwarf brings the tall man her head, and he just kind of looks at it and throws it down.
Yeah.
And I wish you would have pulled a sphere out of it, because then you'd be like, oh, gold spheres are psychics.
Yeah, that would have been like a cool little explanation for the gold sphere. Uh, you do get somewhere in there, there's like a really cool kung fu scene with like nunchucks and stuff from the, I guess you
From
could say, the
Rocky,
leading female character in this movie.
the only one that survives.
Yeah. She was a badass.
She was.
Yeah.
Um, and this one ends with Mike trying to leave Tim and Reggie to pursue the tall man on his own so they don't get hurt. But Mike is kind of a dumbass for a psychic. And the tall man is still there. And Reggie's like being held up with these spheres. And then the tall man, they're in a basement. Okay, they're in a basement that has no windows. So how does it end? The tall man pulls Tim through a window.
Well, he's from other dimensions, so maybe whatever dimension he was in at the time had a window there.
Hmm.
And so he reached through that window. It
He did
appeared
what now?
into the one dimension that had no window. Like that's part of it. Like if he appeared, the window he was reaching through could also appear and then
Okay.
snatch Mike up.
Yeah, it always cracked me up, that scene.
Yeah. I do
Now you've
know
explained it and ruined everything.
I do know there's sort of this like battle at the end of 3 and somehow Reggie, like when he touches the two pillars, and for note, they're not like giant pillars. They're like, I don't know, you know those little like pillars you see outside of supermarkets so that you don't just drive your car straight into
Yeah,
into the store building. It's about that height, I guess.
about
So
the size
Reggie
of a
can like,
dwarf.
yeah, Reggie can like put his hands on both of them at the same time and kind of open like portals
Or like
to,
close them, kind of, or stop
yeah.
them
I think he can do all of those because doesn't he at times open them as well? I don't know. Reggie can
later
touch
on,
the
yeah.
pillars. Things can happen. Um, so he kind of like opens this doorway to another dimension, and that's when is that when somebody comes out? Is it? It's not Mike because I think Mike's already there.
Yeah, Mike. Does Oh,
Or
you're talking about when the tall man's about to come out and
well,
he
yeah, but someone comes out before him, I think, because that was the whole point, right? Is to like let someone come out.
Mike,
Was it Mike?
he's standing there with Jody and Mike comes out and then the tall man starts to come out and he grabs the thing and cuts like the tall man's hands off.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of had like a little theory going, which I guess it's not the case, but because both of his hands get cut off at the wrist, and
And they
it's
don't turn
like,
into bugs.
what if? Well, it's like that. What if that's where Thing from the Adams Family comes from? Is he's
Oh
just
god dang
like
it.
cut off hands from the tall man? It
Where's
makes
the
about
other
as
one?
much
Where's
sense as the
Thing's
rest of.
brother?
Who's to say there's only one thing? Maybe there's other families. Like the Adams family is very large, and perhaps other relatives own a thing.
Anyway, Phantasm 3. There you go. There's Phantasm
Yes.
3 for you. Phantasm 4?
Where things get even more confusing, kind of. So
Phantasm 4 is batshit.
I liked that one almost as much as I liked 3. So I think 3 and 4 are the strongest of the franchise, in my opinion.
I love 4. I feel like it's also the one that gives us the most lore.
For sure.
So, this is where we can, like, kind of just start talking.
Yeah. I think 3 gives you the most explanation into the things that you've already seen that you've had questions for, like the spheres, the dwarves. the gravediggers, like any of that, it kind of clears up in 3, and then 4 gives you a lot more backstory into the tall man himself, which is probably why it's like my second favorite and very close to the third one for me.
Hmm. Basically, Mike has left. The tall man has a dialogue with Reggie, like, stay out of my way. I want Mike. You amuse me, so I'm not going to end you. But Tim's just gone, by the way. We don't see Tim again. There is no explanation as to where Tim went. Um, Rocky did piece the fuck out in at the end of 3. She's like, "You
Smart
all are
woman.
crazy. I'm leaving."
Yeah, she was smart. I'd like to think she's still alive, but just not anywhere near any of them.
Well, she is. You didn't watch the post-credit scene.
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't watch the credit scene.
So, Mike is out searching for the tall man who is right where he left him. Um, and the tall man leaves Reggie and he goes to pursue Mike, who's in pursuit of him. Um,
You were looking
so,
for me, but I was looking for you.
Mike, I think he actually said he wanted to go learn about the tall man, but
hmm
um, how would he could just fucking have a conversation with him, really, and the tall man would be like, "Boy."
like, like, did you ever even try to do a little Q&A with the tall man? No, you didn't.
So he starts like he goes off into the desert and he finds tuning forks, the pillars, and decides he's gonna go through them. And he comes out to like a would you call it like a cyberpunky retro futuristic cabin.
Sure.
Jebediah Morningside is on the porch and he's like, "Oh, are you from the portal? Like, you look very different. Do you want some lemonade?"
As you would. You look like you're from a completely alternate universe. Lemonade?
That's how he does it, though. That's how Jebediah Morningside rolls. He's very
Yeah.
cordial.
Yeah. A very polite man.
Yeah, foreshadowing. Um, and then on the porch, for no reason, is the Kwisatz Haderach woman from the first Phantasm.
Yeah, that we failed to mention because she wasn't like the biggest part of the movie. She was
Yeah,
just oddly there. I don't know.
but they completely rip off Dune. She's like, "Put your hand in this box. Fear is the mind killer." um, so she's there for no reason. Or you know what? She's there for a reason, but I don't understand it. I don't know if they're like related and she's some other time being now or what,
We
but
have to start a theory. Like was that his mom? Like was that his wife?
wife? I'm going with wife.
Yeah.
Like maybe, perhaps
It
he.
kind of does make sense. I mean, if the tall man can go from like different time periods and dimensions and such, it would make sense that his wife would just follow suit and do the same.
Yeah, she
That
has access
also
to that portal.
that also would mean that the girl from the first one, who is the granddaughter of that woman, would most likely be the granddaughter of the tall man.
Possibly. I think we're putting more thought into this than Don Coscarelli ever did.
Yeah.
I heard he kind of checked out by the third one.
He's like, I'm just spitting them out.
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, you want more Phantasm? I want your money."
Match made in heaven.
So, yeah, she's there. I don't know why. Jebediah Morningside reveals it's like Tesla coils at this point. It's not like the
Mhm.
streamlined tuning fork pillars. and it's like hooked up to like a crank wheel and all kinds of shit, like some Frankenstein shit going on because it's
Real
like,
old timey.
yeah, steampunk. Um, so Mike pieces out, you know, it's like,
Which, like, why the fuck? You want answers. And then you
yeah,
finally run into the guy pre however he becomes the tall man. You ask him nothing.
yeah, just like I'm freaked out, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Reggie, who encounters Jennifer,
If that was her name. I think it
the
was.
the blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got her car broken down. No, she wrecks, right?
Checking my notes.
I think she wrecks, and like the car, she's stuck in her car, and he has to kick the window out and pull her out, and then they run, and then there's one of the dumbest lines in these movies where she's like, "Wait, let's stop running. I thought they only exploded in movies," and then it
Oh, yeah.
explodes.
Yeah, because he's like, huh, I think so, or something. Like, he's like, I don't know
Yeah,
either.
and then the fucking car explodes.
Which
So
somewhere in the movie there is like a really cool fire stunt scene where this guy's on fire. I think he's a cop in the movie.
yeah,
Um, so that was really cool, actually.
yeah, I like that scene. Um, it's after he leaves Jen.
Yeah. You saying I'm
So
skipping ahead?
you are, yes,
Oh, okay.
as per usual.
Well, that's where my notes start. So apparently nothing noteworthy happens until.
Damn, that's like halfway through the movie.
Well, you know.
No, maybe it's not. Maybe it is before he meets Jen, actually, because he fights that cop, and there's that body in the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta get to Mike, and then he gets pulled over by the cop,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, just bad mouthing cops while the guy's like walking up.
Thought I smelt bacon.
It's a shame we never got a Reggie meets Ash movie.
That would have been fun. I mean, if you're gonna make some of your bad guys look like deadites, you may as well do a crossover.
You could make Tall Man Source of the Deadites or something. Like,
Yeah.
the Necronomicon is like linked to whatever dimension he went to.
Maybe he created that in the same way that he created the spheres and the dwarves and all that.
Mm. It is bound in flesh and tendon and everything.
Goes back to waste not, want not.
Yep. He's like the Native Americans in that regard. Um, you use the whole buffalo. You use the whole, uh, you know, townsfolk.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he like blows up the police car with the cop in it,
Mm-hmm.
and he comes out of it like lumbering on fire, and yeah, it looks super cool. Practical shot.
Yeah. It reminded me, not to get off topic, but like quickly, it's like a Pink Floyd out, is it an album where there's the guy on fire as the cover?
I don't know. It's not the one where the guy like actually set himself on fire in protest, is it?
I don't think so. I just
Somebody used that
it
as an album cover. I don't know if it was Pink Floyd or not.
probably more of like a death metal band or something.
It was like somebody that, because it was a peaceful protest. I mean, peaceful. Didn't disturb anybody but himself, I guess. So yeah, fast forward, he meets Jen, takes Jen to a place, tries to seduce Jen, almost
Because
succeeds
of
in
course he
seducing Jen.
does.
Yeah, but it turns out Jen is a deadite as well. Agent of the Tall Man, I should say. and her boobs are spheres.
That's in my notes. As I put LOL orb titties. Like,
Oh, we should have mentioned in the second when Liz calls the spheres flying Cuisinarts. That is such a good line. So yeah, her boobs are flying Cuisinarts,
I will say
and
in the fourth one, there's I guess a bit of a bloopery type situation, and I don't know if like I don't know how many other people caught it. It was fairly obvious that like one of the spheres gets Reggie by his hand sometime after the orb titty sex scene situation,
yeah, I think
and
it's in that same room.
yeah, so it's like probably follows it immediately.
Yeah.
And you can see in like Reggie's hand, there's like a little black something. I assume it was to help hold the orb in place
Mm.
during that scene. But you see it. It's just like a little thing on his hand. And then there's like a quick little explosion of some sort. So
Oh yeah, he uses the tuning fork, and they
yeah.
explode like an actual tuning fork for a guitar because
Hmm.
he's an established guitarist from the first one on.
Yeah. He plays in I don't think he plays his guitar in all of them, but he plays it in several of them at least.
Yeah, I know he plays it in 5 and 1.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, the tuning fork explodes the spheres, and then he leaves to go pursue Mike, who is in the desert now trying to make his own sphere.
Yeah, because God, I don't even know which movie it was, but at some point we see that Mike has essentially a sphere in his head already.
Yeah, I think they allude to it at the very end of the third one,
Yeah, I think so.
and now it's like a big part of the fourth one. So he's like taking apart his car to use the parts to make a sphere. And then Jody's black sphere shows up, and he's like, "You need to go see like the tall man again, basically, like Jebediah again." So they go through the portal, and Jody is like giving him commentary on what Jebediah Morningside is doing. And basically, he became obsessed with death, and like everybody in his life died, and he just became obsessed at what lies beyond the veil.
Hmm.
And so he started experimenting with like cold and hot because the tall man hates cold, so that kind of explains that. And he started messing with sound frequencies and vibrations and stuff, and I guess that's how he cracks the code, and that's why tuning forks disrupt it.
Yeah.
So he goes through a portal as Jebediah Morningside, and Mike tries to stop him, but Jody explains that he can't interfere. Like they're on a different plane of existence. They're just spectating.
Yeah.
And so Jebediah goes through, and the tall man comes out, and he's holding a sphere for dramatic effect. And then he like looks at Mike and then starts chasing Mike around. And Mike's like, fuck, he can see me. He's
This
not
is the
supposed to
worst
be
game
able
of
to see
tag
me.
I've ever played.
And so Mike and Jody go through the portal, and then the tall man says, and so it begins. And basically, I think what that's alluding to is like if Mike and Jody didn't keep going and pushing it, like, because that's the second time Mike's been there,
Hmm.
like, Mike essentially creates the tall man by going back in time.
Yeah. Um, I actually, and I want to say maybe it was three, but I guess it could have been four. Um, I started questioning if Mike was the tall man
Oh,
because
like he ages up into him?
yeah, well because there's some sort of comparison shot and like the tall man noticeably has like the bottom part of like his chin and his bottom lip stick out in a pretty distinct way.
Mm.
Um, and there's a shot of Mike because it shows the tall man from the side, so you get the silhouette of him, I guess, from the side, and like his chin sticks out a little further, and it shows Mike, I think, in a car, and you get that same side silhouette, and they're basically like it's like a comparison shot where they kind of make Mike look as if he could age into the tall man because Mike's chin is also similar in that it sticks out a little further than like his top lip. I don't know. So I thought maybe that was the route they were gonna go, but
I mean, I guess potentially it still could be, or
yeah,
could have been. Um, because I kind of got that vibe too. Like maybe, but in the multiverse, anything is possible.
yeah, like in his pursuit to stop the tall man, he somehow becomes the tall man.
Yeah, but I think like the tall man is trying to use Mike as an heir or like
Hmm.
a companion of some sort
Yeah.
because he's very drawn to Mike and wants Mike alive.
Hmm.
And I don't know why he keeps Reggie alive, other than Mike wants Reggie alive. Could be, or
Yeah.
like he
He
says,
amusement was the word.
yeah.
He said,
I,
"What was the direct like quote? It was like every tall man deserves an amusement or something."
yeah, it's basically that. Yeah. So I think Mike is like whatever Jebediah Morningside was, whatever was special about Jebediah that allowed him to become the tall man. I think Mike has that, and then being around it is kind of unlocking it
Yeah,
without the need to like dimension hop.
yeah. Which I hadn't thought about it until now. But it's interesting that if the tall man can like if his goal is to make Mike into another tall man, and we know there are all of these different tall mans, are they just essentially Mikes from other like dimensions?
Are they Mikes? Are they Jebediah Morningsides? Are they just splinters of a whole? Like, is there
For
a dimension with like this Lord of the Dead, like an actual like eldritch horror
for
that is
every
kind of
answer
splintered?
they give you like two more questions.
It's insane. We're not even on the fifth one yet, which I think is the most confusing one.
Certainly is.
So, what else in four? Oh yeah, there's a lot of exposition in four. There's a
Hmm.
great conversation with Mike and the tall man where Mike says, "Go to hell," and he's like, "Not possible."
Yeah. Which the third one I think had my favorite quote. Or no, it wasn't the third one, it was the second one. Uh I'm gonna tell the people watching that we had to do like the jankiest little setup for me to watch the second one because this all of all of these movies aside from the second one is just free to stream. I watched them on Tubi, very cut and dry, easy to find. The second one, there must be some sort of like rights issue or something because it's not streaming anywhere. But
I bet
Matt
it's a
has them.
song. I bet
Huh?
there's some fucking song in there that the rights expired on.
Yeah, probably. That's usually the way it goes. Is like the music in it or something causes it to. Yeah. Only use oh, what is it called? Once some free domain, is that what it's
Public.
called? Public domain. Yeah, only use songs that are available in the public domain. I want more Oh My Darling and Star Spangled Banner and Beethoven's Fifth, just old ass songs.
Yeah.
Like, give me songs from the 1800s and nothing else so that we don't have to deal with this in the future. But essentially, the setup was I watched from my phone while he, like, turned his laptop towards his TV and then played the DVD on his TV. So it was TV, his laptop, the entire time there's glare from the laptop onto the TV. Nothing you could do about it, you know? Um, and then just on my itty bitty phone screen. So, like, definitely was not the easiest to watch
Physical
for me.
media is important.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I guess could have spent a few dollars and paid to rent it or something, I think. I don't know if it's available to rent, but I was like, nah, if you've got it on DVD, let's just save a few
I
bucks.
think
And
it's like $4 or $5 to rent. And it's like, I'm
yeah,
not paying to rent something that I own. And
yeah,
if your outlook was I'm not paying to rent something I can still kind of watch.
yeah. So I was like, nah, I mean, we could have spent the few bucks, but I was like, dude already owns it on DVD. I'm just going to watch it this, like, really ratty ass way. um,
Builds character. It's
yeah,
important to be humbled in your viewings
yeah.
sometimes.
So, two was one of the best quotes, I think, from the entire thing because a priest is says something about what was it exactly that the priest said to the tall man,
Shit.
in which the tall man was like, "Oh, you think you go to heaven after
Oh,
you die or something?" So I was like, "That's pretty cool."
you think you go to heaven after you die? You come to me.
Yeah. So, like, there's no heaven or hell. There's only tall man.
Yeah, he's just the Lord of the Dead.
Hmm.
Um, what that means, I can't tell you.
And they never let us know.
I have theories. We'll get there. We're an hour and a half in, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So,
I think we are about at the end of the fourth movie.
basically, Tall Man comes back through the portal, and Mike uses his sphere to fight him.
Hmm.
And his sphere is actually a bomb. And the Tall Man falls over, burning and dead again. But of course, another tall man comes through the portal and tosses the husk back in, opens Mike's head up, and pulls the gold sphere out.
That scene was pretty brutal.
Yeah, that especially since it's Mike. Like,
Hmm.
so I honestly don't know what's up with that at this point. Like, what that gold sphere? It's not a brain, but maybe it is a brain because
Yeah,
that's what's
which
in spheres.
stands to reason. Like, are other spheres bombs? Does that mean all of them are capable of being bombs? Just questions keep piling up.
That crimson one is it like in the fifth one it has like the it looks like a mine like with all the spikes coming out of
Hmm.
it like a water mine,
Yeah,
and it like latches into them and they're trying to pull it out, but they're getting spiked with their hands and it's lodged in with a spike and then it explodes.
yeah.
Crimson ones are probably my favorite.
It was a land mined
It was an air
mind
mine. It was an air mine is what it was.
mind
Yeah, I know what
mind.
you're saying. I'm just not finding it funny. I'm any moment now, like a hook is going to come around your neck and just pull you off.
Yeah, one of the giant, like an old timey walking cane type hook.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
say Acme on it.
Tough crowd. Jeez.
So yeah, that's basically the end of four. Reggie rearms himself and vows to go get Mike back, and we're off into five.
Yep.
And five, I don't even know where to begin with five. It is.
5, the movie that shouldn't have been, if you ask me. Like, it's a huge gap. It's like the fourth one takes place in 1998, and then the fifth one takes place in, I believe, 2016.
Yes.
So, 18-year gap there. But kudos because all of the main actors are still there.
Angus
So,
Scrimm actually died when it was in post.
is that the tall man?
Yeah.
You could tell he, oh, this is like fucked up to say, but you could tell he was towards the end. Like he was just very, very old.
They had to do a lot of scenes with him, like, sitting and in, like, different perspectives to make it look like he was still standing because he
Yeah.
basically couldn't stand at that point.
Yeah. Something just to touch on before we get into like the depths of the fifth one. Uh so if you're a big fan of the franchise, you may know that the actor who played Reggie is now in hospice care. Do we know an exact reason, or is it just old age? Is it like dementia or something?
I don't. I know he, at least somebody from his, I don't know if it was him or somebody from his, like, publicity team,
Mm-hmm.
social media team, whatever. They said that he would like well wishes from fans and stuff. Like, that always
Yeah.
cheers him up. So it seems like he has some coherence to him.
Yeah. And I don't currently have it. I might after the podcast I might find it so that we can include it, but there was an address given so
Oh,
you can mail him letters for I assume the people that are taking care of him to read to him. Uh, so if you're a big fan or if you just want to like try and cheer him up, maybe make his day or talk to him about what the movies meant to you, then I'm sure he would love to hear that. But sadly enough, I don't know. I wanted to ask you specifically because you're, I guess you'd say a lifelong Phantasm fan, whereas I am not. Was it hard to rewatch five, knowing that
yeah,
because
it's
like
a little rough now.
the whole premise of five is Reggie. Basically, they're saying he has like dementia and he's in like a hospital, like care facility type of thing, and I was like, man, I'm not even like a big fan. This is my first viewing of this movie, of most of the movies, and it's still kind of hard to watch because that's what he's going through now.
Yeah. It has, like, some sort of catharsis with it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just like, it doesn't end with him, like, just dying in a nursing home. There's, like,
No,
more to it than that. But I think if it did end just that way, it would be, like, extremely fucking brutal right now.
like have you in tears kind of thing.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
there's, like, enough, like, sci-fi fun elements around it to be like, okay, it's just a, it's him and Mike and Jody, like, back in the Hemikuda. It's like a battle tank now. That's how it ends.
yeah,
It doesn't end with him, like, passing in a hospital bed with dementia, or, how real life is kind of maybe going for him.
yeah,
And I feel like being in that movie might, like, cheer him up right now. Like, hey, in this reality, I'm, in a hospice bed, but another reality, me and Mike and Angus are, I don't know.
kicking
People deal
ass.
with getting old and death and all of that differently. So,
Yeah. We started the podcast with panties. We're ending it on hospice care.
that's,
That was beautifully said by you, though. That's a nice way to look at it. I hope it does bring him some peace.
yeah, I mean, if I was in that movie, I'm not in that movie, and I hope that's how I look back on my life, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, five, Ravager. Fucking bonkers movie.
Yeah. Um, I can't praise this one too much. I have complaints.
Okay, this, I think it has the lowest score of
Would not
all
be
of them,
surprised.
which is still a 28, which is not bad for a horror franchise.
Yeah, like a B horror franchise at that, you know.
Yeah, a 28% being your lowest score, you did good.
Yeah. A quarter of the audience really likes your stuff, you know.
Yeah, I've seen ones that like fifth installments in franchises that's like 10 or less. So,
Yeah.
what don't you like about five?
Um just my biggest overall complaint, well, to get into the lighter complaints, which it's take this one with a grain of salt because I did watch them basically back to back, but every one of them gives you like a recap, which I
Mm,
don't need when I'm watching them back to back. It's like, okay, it got old, but I can
yeah,
understand, especially with some of the time gaps between the filming of these, that it would be better to have them. And it also gives like if you're, if you happen to like catch the fourth one or the fifth one on, and you've never seen the other ones, then if you catch it from the start, it's like, okay, I'm all caught up. I can kind of follow along now, even though it's pretty pretty wild story to follow, even when you've seen them all. Like we're sitting here trying to explain them, and we're like, I don't know how to explain this.
yeah, I'm not
Um,
looking forward to this one.
yeah, but this has the biggest time gap of, did I say 18 years?
Yeah,
Yeah, so everyone has aged quite a bit. The tall man is super old, and that doesn't. I mean, he still gives a good performance as the tall man, but it's hard to like see, like if he's supposed to be some multi-dimensional type being, he probably wouldn't be aging like that, you know.
yeah,
um he also doesn't even have like the same haircut at that point in time because he had like not long hair, I guess long for like a guy at the time, where it's like shoulder length. um and then here it's like cut a lot shorter, so he does, it's like, would you go get a haircut, dude? Like, so things just don't quite make sense. But I think when you watch this franchise, you kind of have to, again, just enjoy it for what it is. You can't nitpick the panties. Um, but
that's
my
how you end
biggest
up with a 2 hour long podcast, is nitpicking the panties.
um, but you just my one complaint that I just do not like about this movie is it was way too CGI heavy.
You said that in the chat when I was
Yeah,
watching it.
yeah,
And so I think you saying that actually made me go through it and be like, you know what? There wasn't as much CGI as I remember.
yeah. I think it's just there was like I hate CGI blood. It never looks
Yes.
real. It always looks
No.
very fake. It's hard to get liquid to look realistic in a CGI set like situation.
Yeah, I get it why a lot of it is CGI because the big spheres like that needs to be,
Yeah.
because it's the fifth Phantasm movie. They could build that in miniatures and stuff, or they could just be like, hey man, can you do a silver ball on a computer for me real quick?
Yeah, the spheres being CGI isn't even, it's not that bad because they're just spheres, but the blood, I hate that.
I did notice that they did use some practical blood still. It wasn't all CGI blood.
Yeah.
But like when the crimson sphere explodes and blood goes everywhere, that is CGI.
Hmm.
Um,
There's a scene with a horse and it's very CGI, which of course I would,
yeah, the some of the CGI was bad though, but it's also 2016 Phantasm 5. I cut it some slack.
yeah.
And yeah, you saying it was like, okay, I'm this is gonna be gratuitous. And then I went through it and I was like, you know what? There's like three or four scenes that it looks bad in, but
Yeah.
it wasn't gratuitous. I think if you rewatched it, you'd be like, shit, it wasn't that
Yeah.
bad. It just stuck out like a sore thumb on a first viewing.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
And I remembered it being more action packed,
Hmm.
but it doesn't. It's an hour and 25 minutes long.
Yeah.
And the first hour of it is just another Phantasm movie with them like going out for a drive and like being in the desert and shit.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't get action packed until like less than a half an hour left in the movie.
Maybe that just means it was very impactful on you, though.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So the whole time though, we're following Reggie. We don't see Mike forever. We're following Reggie, and he's like going through the desert, picks up a girl, Dawn, goes back to Dawn's place. Sound fucking. I feel like you're giving me your top five horror movies right now.
And they go on a road trip. And
So while he's at Dawn's, he ends up flashing to hospice care
yeah, a lot
where
of back and forth.
Mike is with him at first, and they're like out in the courtyard. And Reggie's like, Mike, what are you doing here? I've been looking all over for you. And Mike's like, Reggie, you are losing your mind, man. Like, you've been catatonic for a while. Like, you've been talking nonsense. Like, we've got you at this place. They'll take care of you. And so, after that dialogue, it flashes back to Reggie at Dawn's place, and he's hitting on her, saying he's going to write a song.
Yeah. And he does.
Yeah, it takes him till the morning to remember her name, but he's
You
writing
mean
a song about her name.
it takes him until the dawn to
It
remember her
does.
name?
It does take him until the dawn to remember Dawn, and that's how he remembers Dawn. It
Yeah.
would have been funnier if he went to wash the dishes.
Oh, and then there's Dawn, the like dishwashing liquid.
Yeah, they probably couldn't afford the rights to use that though.
Yeah.
When
They
you're
could have
making
had like some
Phantasm
shitty.
5, they don't pay you to be sponsors. You pay them to use the joke.
They should have just had like some really shitty washing liquid, and then it's like, oh man, this stuff sucks. Wish we had some. Her name was Dawn. Like,
What the fuck was her name? Ajax.
yeah.
Uh, uh, so yeah, she's upstairs going to sleep, and he's trying to write her a song, and he gives up and goes to sleep. But she's up there not actually sleeping. She's kind of getting turned on by his singing and feeling a little lonely because it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and that's the first guy she's seen in probably 20 years.
Shit, he spent all night writing a song about her. He might deserve a little something, you know?
Yeah. So she goes downstairs, and for once in Reggie's life, he's going to get laid, but he's already out.
Well, laid by someone that's not already deceased.
Or that he's married to, because he did have a
Yeah.
daughter. I
Yeah.
assume he got laid at least once by his wife at that
Which
point.
I might be jumping the gun, but to be honest, I'm not sure where it falls in terms of the movie. That at some point the tall man offers to bring back his wife and his daughter, and he's like, I don't want your undead zombies. Just give me Mike and Jody. And it's like Jody's brain has been put into a sphere,
Yeah, I
but you
bet.
still want him back, but you don't want your wife and child back. Okay, Reggie, it's because he's out chasing new poon. He doesn't want to deal with the old ball and chain anymore.
It'd be a ball and a ball, actually, because they're
Yeah.
probably spheres, both of
A
them.
sphere and a chain, more like, right?
Yeah. It keeps flashing back to them in the hospice thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mike's not there, and he's laying beside the tall man in his dream, I believe. Maybe there's one more scene with Mike, and
Hard
then
to
the tall
say.
man one's later. Anyway, when we come back from his dream to I'm going to call it reality.
Mm-hmm.
it's a choose your own adventure. I'm picking this as reality.
The reality is him not in hospice care.
Yes, the reality is
Yeah.
him at Dawn's.
I think you mean Ajax.
Yes. Um, so Ajax is upstairs with a sphere in her head and blood coming out. That was practical.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty good too. And so he runs out and he gets the weapons and he finds her farmhand, Demeter.
Yes.
And Demeter won't shut the fuck up because he doesn't speak English. Reggie is a stranger in his shed, armed to the teeth.
Yep.
And Demeter won't shut the fuck up. So Demeter's horse gets killed, and then Demeter gets killed by the spheres.
And
And
Reggie,
so,
Reggie sees the horse getting murdered by the spheres, and he's just like turns to the dude and is like, "Sorry about your horse."
I love it. It's a very Ash Williams moment.
Yeah, he should have just been like, "Well, maybe you can at least make some glue out of it," like something. You know?
He also says far out a lot. Reggie says far out a lot. More than
Well,
Ash says groovy.
yeah, well, when the apocalypse started in around the 80s, so like I would assume there's no new slang terms after the apocalypse. Well, at least not in this apocalypse. Just
Yeah.
all.
He gets back in his CUDA and is going to try and find Mike, who we still haven't seen. And then I think we get a scene with him in a hospital bed with the Angus Scrim
Yep.
beside him.
Angus, Jebediah?
Yeah, I was saying Angus Scrim because that's who was. So
Gotcha.
we don't know if it's the tall man or if it's Jebediah.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start conversing, and he calls himself Jebediah. But towards the end of the conversation, he starts saying some threatening shit and is acting like the tall man. And we've never heard the tall man call himself Jebediah. So that's an odd scene to me.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder if like as he's passing, like I mean, who knows? Maybe he went through the portal or whatever and then he managed to go back into his time because it does seem like a much older time period still, I guess. And but like the kind of messing around with like the multiverse and all that did something to him, but it he had to wait until he passed, and then once passing, he fully transitioned into the tall man or something.
Maybe. That's as
It's
good a theory as any.
yeah, it's really hard to make sense of the franchise.
It's something else. So here's where it starts getting crazy. Reggie starts dimension hopping looking for Mike, I guess. That's kind of how
Perhaps.
it's presented.
Yeah.
So he ends up in like a very, very post apocalyptic world. Like the one he's coming from is pretty subdued as far as post apocalypses go.
Hmm.
And he ends up in one that has like freedom fighters and shit. And so he gets freed from a. Actually, no, I'm wrong. He's dimension hopping and he ends up in a mausoleum.
Hmm.
And here we fucking go. That's when Panty Woman shows back up.
My favorite character,
Yep.
apparently.
She has like 2 minutes of screen time in 5 movies, but Piper's favorite character.
I was confused as to who she was. Uh, because it's just I just geared her as like everyone's aged up so much by that point that I didn't register that that was her.
Yeah, she's Panty Woman, tall man.
Yeah.
Um, so she is actually pretty menacing in this one because she's got like metal on her toes, like her feet,
Mm-hmm.
and they're scraping as she's like floating through the air. And then she like gets like a scream mask face when she shouts at Reggie.
I
Or
almost
Reggie.
was I almost was wondering, which this is like the last one that's been made, but it was almost as if like, are they gearing up for her to take over as like the main villain? Because they did give her like, her scene's pretty cool. I'll give
Yeah.
the movie that,
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna do a six.
Yeah,
I
especially
don't
not now.
yeah, I don't think they thought Angus would last until a six. I don't think
Yeah.
they think Reggie will last till a six now. So it would have to be like a reboot.
Mm-hmm.
Um or at least a soft reboot where like a Michael Baldwin, like Mike, goes through a portal or something and finds like their younger selves and they're all recast or something, you know?
Yeah, I think if ideally for me, just comics are the way to go to kind of clear up some things.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they exist.
I looked them up and I didn't see any, but I can say there is a Phantasm comic book store in Pennsylvania. So if you
Oh.
live in Pennsylvania, check it out, I guess.
Um so he's running through the mausoleum after he shoots Panty Tall Man, and then it starts to like twist in on itself and it becomes like a cave system, and he's running through the cave shooting dwarves, and then the cave like falls apart and he's standing on like a plateau or something that has him and the tall man on it, and that's when they
Hmm.
have their dialogue, and that's when he offers the children, or the girl, his daughter and wife,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, I'm not taking your necromancy copies of them. I do want Mike back though, and Jody.
Hmm.
And Angus Tall Man is like, this is your last offer, like your amusements run out. um and that's when Reggie wakes up and
Or
he's,
falls asleep. I don't know.
what's up is down. So he wakes up and he's got tuning forks on his head, like near his head. His head's between two tuning forks. And what looks like a dwarf runs in and doesn't say anything and like starts cutting his straps. And then what looks like somebody that's like 5'9" ish comes in, and
Very specific.
like I'm I'm trying to be sensitive here. So he gets up and he's like, "Who the hell are you people?" And then the one that looks like a dwarf takes their shit off, and it's a little person named Chunk.
Hmm. Which there was a little person in earlier on in this film that was with the rescue party, I guess you'd say. Like I just remember him being very rude to Reggie.
Yeah, the Chunk.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and the taller person takes their shit off, and it looks like Dawn, but it's not. It's Ajax.
Yeah.
Um, I think her name's Jane. That sound right? I don't. I just
Sure.
remember her as Dawn. Um, and they're part of like a freedom movement to oppress the tall man, oppose the tall man. And Reggie goes off with them, and they run into Mike, and Mike's like the leader of the freedom fighters. And that's when we see the red sphere. That thing's fucking awesome. And then it starts like rapid fire going from Reggie with Mike to Reggie in hospice to Reggie like outside hospice with Mike.
I think it's of note, like as well, that at some point in the movie, Mike is like, "Hey, I had a dream that was just like." Like basic. I guess they were implying that like Mike had also seen the actual reality instead of the fabricated one where Reggie was in
Yeah.
hospice and just crazy.
Yep. I
Yeah.
was right there actually.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. So, yeah, exactly what she said. Mike recalls reality, what we're calling reality, while in the hospice world. It kind of reminds me of I saw the TV Glow
Hmm.
in this aspect. But anyway, this has been 2 fucking hours.
That's going to be a lot to edit.
So, Mike is with Reggie in the Resistance, and also with Reggie at hospice, and it's like rapid fire going back and forth between those, and I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And then outside of hospice, he throws Reggie a gun. Like Reggie wanders off from his caregivers, and they're like arguing about how he ended up outside, but meanwhile he's wandering off and some mystical dude throws him a gun. So he's standing there with a gun, and then all the caregivers turn into gravers and dwarves, and him and Mike are just blasting them. I'm wrong.
Keep
Oh
in
my god.
mind, Matt's seen the movie like 5 or so times, and
Yeah, but
even
it's
he's
so
struggling.
much.
Yeah.
So back it up. There, that's still happening. They're still flashing around
Hmm.
between the different realities. And Mike and oh my god, I don't know what's real.
Yeah.
I don't know what's real anymore. We've been talking about Phantasm for 2 hours. I don't know what's happening. So at some point, Mike and Reggie leave the fucking hospice. I feel like that's what I was just describing, but it seems wrong. Can you help me?
um, I can't because I didn't take notes on this one because I thought it's the last one I'm watching. Surely I'll remember. But then I went and took a 6 hour nap before the podcast. So like
So,
it gets
uh,
a little wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and it's just a confusing mess. Like let's just be honest. This one's the most confusing one. Really hard to
um,
describe.
basically, Reggie accepts that he's leaving the hospice with Mike, and accepts that they're in a bad reality. They're going to a better reality.
Hmm.
And they go to confront the tall man because when Reggie finally snaps into it fully, they've taken Jane and Chunk is missing. And so they go through a portal into the red world, and he kills Jane, which makes Chunk go crazy.
I just realized that I have a question, and it's not like I want to ask it in the politest way possible. Um, but if that's okay, so we've already established definitively that the tall man like takes his victims, puts their brains in the sphere, kind of shrinks the brain down, puts it in the sphere, and then shrinks the body down, and you get the dwarves. Chunk is already a little person. I assume he still has to shrink every body that he gets down. Would Chunk be like an extra small dwarf? Would he be much smaller than the rest of the dwarves? Because he has to be shrunk down, and he's not
I
a full, like a typical sized person.
I would assume so.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
just
hope that he would at
interesting.
least do the courtesy of giving him a normal size sphere, like that those are one size fits all.
Yeah, well, because the brain is the same size. It's just body's a little smaller.
Yeah. Or maybe he doesn't have to shrink them down, and that's how they get the big spheres, because they have the bigger brain.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So here's Don Coscarelli. If you ever listen to this, can you email us?
We have questions.
Don Coscarelli actually didn't direct this one. He
Oh,
co-wrote it.
really?
Yep, it's the only one.
Hmm.
He co-wrote it and fucked off. It's
So
like
does
I get
it?
a check either way.
So does it essentially end with them accepting and like going into the other reality, like the better reality you said?
I have numerous theories. Um, so yeah, Chunk he kills all the dwarves and he pulls off like a grenade vest, kills the tall man, and Mike and Reggie run out before the explosion gets them. And then the CUDA pulls up and it has Jody driving it, and they ride off into the sunset. But then there's a post credit scene that you missed
I did miss it. I was ready to be done with these movies.
where Chunk comes out of the portal and he's missing a hand. And Rocky picks him up.
Hmm.
And then I don't know why they're doubling back, but they get the CUDA pulls up and Chunk and Rocky go into the CUDA, and it's the five of them talking about going north and trying to change their plans to because he doesn't like the cold, so they're going to go north
Yeah.
to regroup and re-strategize on how to go get the tall man,
Hmm.
leaving it open for a sixth one.
Do you think if they were to put a mini bar inside of the CUDA, would that make it a barracuda?
It's We're 2 hours into talking about Phantasm, and this is what you want to hit me with?
Eh.
What is wrong with you? I wish I could just turn my brain off like you can.
I think first you'd have to turn it on to turn it off.
Oh,
So,
talking about turning off, I know that's what you're great at. So, any more thoughts on Phantasm 5 before we get into the series as a whole?
no, no, just speaking of holes, those panties. No, I'm good.
Okay, so my thinking on 5 is either you can see it doesn't really work because the middle three exist. If you just
Hmm.
look at 1, it's like a allegory for a child dealing with death. And if you look at just 5, it's like an allegory for a man at the end of his life, like wanting one last hurrah,
Yeah.
or, like whatever, depressing shit.
Hmm.
But the fact that there's those 3 in the middle and we switch main characters halfway through, I gotta take them at face value that there's like a malevolent force from another dimension that is plundering the corpses of every other dimension.
For sure. I think I mean, just I guess echoing what you said, but the fact that we've had the three movies in between kind of cements the fact that like this can't be just like some dimension like a type of hallucination or whatever that Reggie's having, and it also is not going to be something where Mike is just dealing with grief, because you hear from two separate main characters. So,
Yeah, I feel like it has to be. I mean, maybe like Don Coscarelli, when he was writing them, was working through shit like that.
yeah.
But I feel like in the backdrop of like a sci-fi horror film.
Yeah.
So I I think the Tall Man is extremely fucking underrated as a villain.
Oh, for sure.
Like he never even lost. Like in the fifth one's over and he still hasn't lost.
I think maybe just what like gets him kind of put on the back burner is the fact that, well, one, that they're B horrors, so you never get like, super huge budgets for them and stuff like that. But also, it is a confusing story,
It is.
like it's almost I mean, it's fucking almost impossible to explain. So, like, I can see why he wouldn't be a lot of people's like top tier, because I would imagine a lot of people check out at a certain point, and then I mean, if you dip out of this franchise before you get to the third and fourth installments, you're missing out on so much lore and so much detail and stuff. Like, you just
Yeah.
you don't really get to understand the full scope of the Tall Man unless you watch at least to the fourth one. I mean, the fifth one, maybe it doesn't have as much lore to it and stuff like that, but you've got to watch the third and fourth one to get an idea of what the Tall Man's really even like capable of.
The first time I saw the fifth one, I hated it.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they ending it like this? But I've warmed up to it each rewatch. Like I like it more than two at this point. I'd say it's probably
Yeah.
my second to least favorite.
So, what is your overall rankings of them?
Fuck.
I don't think I could give an answer, so.
Yeah, it's four's up there,
Mhm.
three's up there. I'll go four, three, one, five, two. But ask me tomorrow, it could be different.
Yeah. I think if I had to give an answer, I think three, four, two, one, five.
Okay.
But then one and two might flip flop the more I watch them. So,
Yeah. And like I said, five was easily my lowest, and now it's above two. So if
yeah.
you were to do like the undertaking of it all again, it might move up a little
Yeah.
bit. You might have, I don't know. I thought I was very unfulfilled when I first watched it
Yeah.
because it's so weird. It the whole time I'm watching these other ones, I wanted Reggie to like and Mike to like be the freedom fighters. And then you get it and it's like, oh, did I really want that though?
Yeah. It's like when you want a backstory to like a villain, and then you get the backstory and you're like, I didn't need that. Like,
Yeah. So I thought the tall man was great in all of them. I understand that like physical limitations there at the end
hmm,
were a thing, but he still delivered that last boy like fucking awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of five, given the fucking. So my theory, and I've never read this theory. My theory is kind of as because I watched the one with Jet Li when I was a kid, and the one is
Okay.
about Jet Li in the multiverse, but like a bad Jet Li discovered the multiverse, and if you
Mhm.
kill your like mirror person throughout the multiverse, you get their strength.
Okay.
And I'm kind of applying that logic to the Phantasm multiverse. So it's like maybe not that you get their strength, but like as these Reggies die off, he's becoming more focused because now he's like got the whole multiverse open to him. Same with Mike, but I think Mike can kind of focus more.
Yeah.
So it's like as these Reggies die off, like main canon Reggie is becoming more focused. Like he's learning from his other multiversal counterparts.
Yeah. He's like better able to just hone in on it.
Yeah. And I think Mike is whatever the tall man is, and he can, or whatever Jebediah is,
Yeah.
was.
Because I think throughout the fifth one, the tall man is like telling Reggie not to trust either Jody or Mike. I can't remember, but he's telling him like you can't trust him or something.
Yeah, it's Jody. Nobody
Yeah,
can
which
trust
it's
Jody.
yeah, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you're the tall man. Like you're not a reliable source because you're my enemy. So like,
All that stock footage they used, like that they didn't use in the first one, but they
hmm
clearly had filmed like so much.
yeah, I noticed that they were like because it wasn't a time where it was like, oh, okay, they can just CGI and make a person look younger or
Yeah,
something. And it's like,
did you
there's no
see those
recasting
spheres?
those people. What is it?
Yeah. Did you see those spheres? There's no way they de-aged them. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't even get a silver ball to look great.
Yeah.
But when Angus Scrim, tall man, is fucking hanging there, and he's like, "Cut me down," Mike's like, Mike's like, "No." It's like, "I'll go away."
Yeah. It's
He's like, "You will, you promise?"
like, you can
Mm-hmm.
trust me. Like,
I'm just a fucking elder god of death. Like,
yeah. Pinky promise. Like, if you break this, your pinky will fall off and turn into a bug. So,
oh damn, that was actually funny. Good job.
yeah.
The cane can put you back now. um, it's just a batshit bonkers fucking story,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's like
Probably the wildest storyline of any franchise that I could think of.
it's definitely a wild fucking ride, and it just gets wilder and more confusing as you go.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as you get an answer, you wish you hadn't. Because it's like, no, I had a theory that actually worked there, but now you've debunked that theory, and I have 30 more questions.
Yeah. Um yeah, I honestly like knowing everything that I do know now. I would definitely be willing to go back and watch one because like from the perspective of just watching them in a linear sense, um you're like, well, why? Like, my big thing for the first one is like, why did they include the orbs and all this stuff? Because it's like the tall man felt like a standalone kind of thing. It was like, man, he could have just been like the scary, creepy uh, dude at the not morgue, yeah, at the mortuary. Uh, So it felt kind of weird to have the spheres and stuff, but then later on when you realize, like, yo, because he's not a person,
Yeah.
so it makes the whole first movie a completely different watch once you know everything.
Yeah, he's like a fucking. I wish he would have done more. Like, I appreciate everything Don Coscarelli did, but I wish this franchise had like a little bit more oomph.
Yeah.
Then it would like undoubtedly be my favorite. If like the tall man moved a little more, like
Yeah.
because he's physically imposing not in his stature, and you like see some feats of strength and stuff, like he's lifting a coffin on his own like no
Hmm.
problem with a body in it.
Yeah. Usually takes at least like 6 to 8 people to carry one of those things.
Yeah, and he's like just tossing it up and catching it, like he's
Hmm.
clearly super strong, but he never uses it
Yeah.
like in a confrontation, I should say.
I'm gonna need to require the rights to make a comic or something. Like, get that going. I'll consult with you on the story since you like know it better than I do.
Who would you want to reboot it?
Um, gosh, I wouldn't know. Not not Robert Eggers. I
No,
can say that much. I mean Sam Raimi would be, since they already were like friends and stuff. I feel like that would be a good route to go. Who else? I'm not like the best with directors. Probably not Mike Flanagan. I don't know.
no.
I feel like Mike Flanagan would do a better job than Robert Eggers at it, but neither would be like the one. I guess Sam Raimi.
That's a good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Bill Skarsgård playing the tall man, right?
As long as he doesn't do a fucking accent, like
I bet he can say boy all right. That's really all you need.
just the tall man being like, bounce on it. Da.
Panos Cosmatos would be my pick.
I don't know who that is.
He'd have to co-write it with somebody that has a sense. Well, he has a sense of humor, but not good enough for Reggie.
Can you give me a few things he's done so I can.
Mandy, which you
Okay.
haven't watched,
Yeah.
and Beyond the Black Rainbow,
I also have not watched.
and one episode of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities.
Okay.
The one with RoboCop in it, Peter Weller.
Yeah.
So he he just does like action with like cosmic horror really well.
That's essentially what these are, the Phantasm films. Bit of action, bit of like some cosmic-y sci-fi type stuff.
Yeah. So I thought he would be a perfect fit. But
Yeah.
if he can't do it or he won't do it, I don't want anybody to reboot it.
Not even Sam Raimi?
Not even Sam Raimi. Not even Don Coscarelli.
Well, he apparently stopped giving a shit a long time ago.
Yeah. I feel like he's just got the wheels turning though. Like, how can I get a sixth one out? That five money's running low.
Yeah. I mean, how would you have a sixth one go? Like, what would you want you
I
know,
mean,
answer
you
a
would
lot of
either.
these plot holes and shit and the questions we've got?
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, you would just have to have faith that people would take whoever you recast as Tall Man, that it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be like too jarring or anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could get past that, to be honest. Like,
Yeah. I do think like some of the taller actors in Hollywood right now are the Scars guards
yeah,
because they're all gigantic. So any of them from like a physical, like a height, like type of standpoint would do well, but almost like, would it? would it be a bad thing if they had someone unknown play the part, get like a new actor in there or
How tall is Javier Bardem? Because when he was in No Country for Old Men, he had a little tall manness going on
with the haircut?
with the haircut and the swagger.
Um, I'm gonna look it up.
I mean, I don't know how tall Angus Scrimm is. I feel like he's not like terribly tall. It's just when Reggie Bannister is short and your lead is a 12-year-old boy, they you look pretty tall, you know.
um, he's 5'11", so not the shortest, but could be taller. Kind of would just
Yeah,
depend on who else they cast by comparison.
yeah. Shorter than me is not the tall man.
Yeah.
Oh,
What are you
I gotta
sitting at,
look
like
up
6 foot even or 6'1"?
6'1". Yeah, I wonder how big Angus Scrimm was. 6'4". So yeah,
Oh shit.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm sure walking down the street at some point they saw someone who was bigger than 6'4", though. Like in their life, I'm positive.
Yeah. What if there's, I
So
mean, if there's tall men, that implies that there is taller men. So,
okay, fair.
yeah.
Wait till they kill all those iterations of the tall man and the taller man has to show up.
Yeah, you thought you had a boss battle. But like,
And then the tallest man.
yeah.
Yeah, I would love some answers, but I feel like we'll never get them.
No. I don't even know if like a reboot, I don't know if movies are the way to go. I know I've said it a few times now, but I feel like comics would be like you can do so much with them and
Yeah,
it just I don't know. I would really like to see a comic book series of these.
Buffy continued his comics, and I
Yeah.
only read like the next season worth,
Hmm.
but that was really good, and I want to read more. Firefly is still going as comics.
Do you have them in your Amazon wish list?
I don't think so. I need to put them
You
there.
missed opportunity.
It would be a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I want to read those Hellraiser ones too. So Phantasm, yeah, you're right. It definitely needs it, and it doesn't matter that Angus Scrimm's gone and Reggie Bannister will never act again. I'm sure. Um,
Yeah.
they just put their likeness to paper, and you got it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I think it would be the best route to take because you can just draw them in.
Yeah, and the way comics work, it's like Don Coscarelli would have to like clear it, I'm sure, but just whoever could add to the lore.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I've got a great idea for how to explain this part of Tall Man, and I'll do it in a 5-issue series. And Don Coscarelli's like, sounds good. Like, I like that. Or, oh, I don't like that. Rework this part.
That'll be our next venture. If the podcast doesn't work out, we'll just start
Yeah.
doing Phantasm comics.
Are we going to reboot it? Are we going to pick up where it left off?
I think we should just a continuation to kind of
Okay.
try to help. I mean, maybe make them look younger, but still the same characters and explain that storyline and stuff.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch that post credit scene at some point then.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, I could certainly keep talking about Phantasm. I think that's all we have time for today. So thanks for listening to our mad ravings about this franchise.
Yeah.
Um, you can follow me on TikTok at Reeldumb.
Yeah, and you can find me on TikTok and Instagram as Piper Purgatory.
And you can follow the podcast on TikTok, Two Ghouls, One Podcast. That would
Yeah.
help because followers give us access to better features to bring you better content. For example, a video with the Phantasm theme song.
Yeah, we can't use licensed music or anything yet, so The more followers we get, the better content we can spit out for you.
So yeah, that's true of our personal socials and anyone you like on TikTok's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So follow people you like. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and that's been fucking Phantasm.
Yep, yep. Thanks for sticking this one out with us. We know it was a long one. Hopefully, hopefully there won't be too many at this length, but we covered a whole franchise, so
And it's the baddiest one. So
for sure.
all right, bye.
See ya.